Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. I hope you guys are enjoying the Appetite for Destruction 30th Anniversary Week on my channel. We talked about episode 1 where we discussed the pre-production for Appetite for Destruction. Today we're talking about the actual recording of the album. So now that Guns N' Roses actually had a producer in Mike Klink to help them out, they went into the Rumble Recorders in Van Nuys, California to record Appetite for Destruction. So the goal was to record an album with a sound and feel that reproduced the raw and energetic qualities of their live shows. So Mike Klink's style suited the band quite well. He had an easygoing personality that disarmed the band when it came to creative collaboration, but he also played the disciplinarian, demanding that the band show up for their scheduled recording sessions on time, and the band responded well to both. Their days were long and productive. But Guns N' Roses didn't all of a sudden turn into choir boys when they were recording Appetite for Destruction. In fact, they didn't allow the rigid recording schedule to get into the way of them having fun. So Mike Klink would become quite accustomed to hearing a variety of explanations, including broken bones, missing equipment, and run-ins with the cops for certain band members showing up late. So just because the band had achieved the status of Geffen artists and were recording their first album, it didn't change the state of their affairs on the street. They were still living hand-to-mouth, bumming off friends for food, and needing a place to sleep. Izzy was kicked out of his girlfriend's apartment and slept in the utility closet of Rumble Studios when Mike allowed him to, and Slash had nowhere to live, and he also set up camp in the studio as well. Now, Tom Zutaut had engaged the mixing services of Mike Barbero and Stephen Thompson in New York City, who were producing another Geffen artist, Tesla. So Slash, Axl, and Izzy all flew to New York and mixed the album to perfection with their new team. Also among the small entourage from LA to New York that joined the Three Gunners was Adriana Durgan, who was Steven Adler's girlfriend at the time, and a Sunset Stripper. So Axl propositioned her to record some last-minute environmental sounds for Rocket Queen, and she reluctantly agreed, but not without a guilty conscience. Now, according to Tom Zutaut, Guns N' Roses might have worked consistently for 1 week, and then the next week they didn't turn up to the studio. It was pretty erratic, probably because of the drug use and stuff. When Axl was in the frame of mind to work, he might work for 2 to 3 days straight and then not turn up for a week, or he might come every day during an 8-hour period. Now, one common misconception that Mike Klink wanted to clear up is that these guys didn't knock out all the songs in one take. He said no, they didn't, and if that were the case, we probably would have done the record in 2 weeks. It didn't happen that way. When Slash played his parts, none of the other guys were there. They wanted to be partying when they didn't have to be there. I always said one of the hardest things about recording the record was getting 5 people in the same room during the same time doing the same thing. That was not an easy chore because everyone is off doing their things. Slash also said we did the whole album by getting it on the second or third take. Now, Tom Zutaut was a little worried about hiring an engineer to actually work with Guns N' Roses because, like I said earlier, they would show up at different hours, and sometimes they work for a week and then not show up for the next week. So Tom Zutaut recalled telling himself, I found myself saying to a potential engineer, I don't know if this is going to be a 9 to 5 kind of job or a 6 to midnight kind of job. When the band is in the mood to roll tape, I've got to call you and we've got to roll tape. This presented problems even with Warner Brothers because, again, you know they're very corporate. They would tell me I have to issue a purchase order and it has to go through an approval procedure. I would have to get David Geffen to call Warner Brothers and give me the book of the PO so I could issue my own at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's another reason why the record was good, because there weren't necessarily a regular schedule. It rolled when the band was in the space to roll. Mike Klink was perfect for GNR because he could sit in that studio and sit out all the shenanigans. So Mike Klink described a typical day working in the studio once the band actually found which hours were going to work best for them. So he said call time was around 11 in the morning out at Rumble Studios to cut basic tracks. Everyone showed up around noon, and by 1 o'clock we were pretty much rolling. They were pretty good about showing up on time and being there. It started with Slash around noon, and we worked up until 8 at night. Axl was scheduled to come in around 9. What happened was 9 became 10, and 10 became 11, and then we started working around the clock. Axl was typically late, however I wasn't sitting around waiting for them to get something done. Use Your Illusion was a whole other story, but while they were in the studio they were very focused and we got a lot accomplished every single day. Appetite for Destruction did not happen by accident. We really worked hard to make that record. It was a labor of love. I put a lot of love on that record. And Mike also recalled the amount of chaos that was going on in the band member's life. He said outside of the studio it was total chaos. Stuff would show up at the door one afternoon when we were doing guitar dubs and his arm was in a sling. I think he might have had a black eye and he was limping. When I asked what happened, he said, well, we were stair diving. He was trying to jump from the top of the stairs in someone's apartment all the way to the bottom without hitting a step. In Large Studio Lounge, it was going haywire. I remember sitting when we were cutting basic tracks and all of a sudden I heard a ruckus. It sounded like an earthquake. Steven was upset about something and was trashing the lounge, knocking over the sofa, the tables, and the refrigerator. There was definitely chaos going on around. So Guns N' Roses entered the studio around January of 1987, and they finished recording the album in April of 1987. So the budget for the album was just under $400,000 at $370,000. And according to Steven Adler, the percussion was just done in 6 days, but Axl's vocals took much longer as he insisted on doing them one line at a time in a perfectionism that drove the rest of the band away from the studio as he worked. And the final overdubs and mixing were actually done at Media Sound Studios and mastering at Sterling Studio in New York City. Before Guns N' Roses landed on Mike Klink, Steve Thompson and Marc Barbero, who had actually mixed the actual album, were originally offered the job of producing the band. However, they declined, but they said they wanted to actually mix the album. So Steve talked a bit about what it was like mixing with the band members. He said the people in the mix were Axl, Slash, and Izzy. Each day they would come in to explain a little bit about the tracks, and then we'd go off and do our thing. Then when we felt like we were ready for their ears, we would have them come in. I remember when we were mixing Paradise City, I goofed this one part during the breakdown structure before Take Me Home. I basically copied that part of the song and duplicated it. Axl heard it and loved it and said to keep it in there. Back in those days, if you wanted to do some experimenting, it was tape editing. What I liked about mixing that record was that you weren't being over anal, which a lot of people in the music and films do today. They just overanalyze everything, and that's when you tend to screw things up. We went for a vibe and the gut and song by song. We worked closely with Tom Zutaut. He was there every day, and I'd have to say Tom has an amazing ear and really liked his perspective on things. I think he was right on the money about everything in terms of the approach on the mixing. And of course, we have to talk about Rocket Queen. So Steve Thompson recalled recording Rocket Queen and when Axl came up with the idea of including sex noises on the song. So he said Izzy would get on the console every now and then and check things out. Slash would come around. I remember we were working with Rocket Queen and Axl said it was missing something. He said, I want to get some sex noises on this. So obviously you could go into your porn collection and record some stuff, but he said, no, I want something real. So Axl at that time said there was also something I tried to work out with various people, a recorded sex act. It was something spontaneous but premeditated, something I wanted to put on the record. It was a sexual song and it was kind of a wild night in the studio. This girl we knew was dancing. Everyone was getting really excited. The night could have gotten really explosive, lots of trouble for everyone, and I thought, wait a minute, how can we make this more productive? So Adriana Durgan, who was the girl recorded in Rocket Queen, had this to say. Slash invited me to go to New York where we were finishing the recording of Appetite. I used to live there, so I had friends I could visit and a place to stay, so I went out at the same time as the band, and I ended up hanging out at the recording studio the entire time. One night I got drunk in the studio, and Axl propositioned me to have sex in the recording studio. Axl was having a hard time finding anyone to do it. I know that he asked several women to do it, including his girlfriend, and they wouldn't. He said, no one will do this for me. Aaron wouldn't. No one will. Alan Niven got me a big bottle of Jack Daniels for me and Slash if I did it. That was the deal. I would do it for a bottle of liquor for me and Slash because we were drinking buddies. This was something that Axl wanted, and I absolutely adored Axl, and I fully trusted him. I said to myself, right on for the band, I'll do it for the band. One might wonder, what does Steven Adler have to say about all this? So in Reckless Road, he was also interviewed. He said, I love Adriana Smith. She's amazing. She did what she did. We were going out and she did what she did on Rocket Queen. It was cool. It was all right. It didn't matter. We weren't married or anything. We were just close. We were naked skydivers from hell. So let's talk about the album's artwork. So the album's originally planned cover art was based on a Robert Williams painting, Appetite for Destruction. So it depicted a robotic rapist about to be punished by a metal avenger. So after several music retailers refused to stock the album, Geffen Records compromised and put the controversial cover art on the inside of the album, and they replaced it with an image depicting a Celtic cross and the skulls of the 5 band members, which were designed by Billy White Jr. originally as a tattoo. So each skull, of course, represented one band member, including Izzy, who was the top skull, Steven Adler was the left skull, Axl was the center skull, and Duff was the right skull, with Slash being on the bottom. So in a 2006 interview, Billy White Jr. explained, the cross and skulls that looked like the band was Axl's idea. The rest was me. The knot work in the cross was a reference to Thin Lizzy, a band that Axl and I both loved. And the actual photographs used for the back of the album and liner notes was actually taken by the band's photographer Robert John, friend Marc Canter, Jack Lew, and Leonard McCarty, and Greg Freeman. And in 2006, Axl actually revealed on Eddie Trunk's show that he originally wanted the cover art to be the Space Shuttle Challenger exploding. And that was actually on the front cover of Time magazine in 1986, but Geffen refused to do that, saying it was in bad taste. So the artwork that was originally planned for Appetite for Destruction was supposed to be a symbolic social statement with the robot representing the industrial system that's raping and polluting our environment. So Appetite for Destruction was released on July 21st, 1987, and it debuted on the Billboard 200 in the week of August 29th, 1987. It debuted at number 182, so it did not really top the charts until August 6th of 1988, after the band had toured and received radio and music airplay with singles such as Welcome to the Jungle and Paradise City. and it also spent 4 non-consecutive weeks at number 1 on the chart and a total of 147 weeks on the Billboard 200. So by September of 2008, the album had been certified platinum 18 times by the Recording Industry Association of America, having shipped 18 million copies in the US, making it the country's 11th best-selling album. Now, it's been estimated that worldwide Appetite for Destruction has sold around 30 million copies. And it was funny, 7 months after Appetite came out, it had only sold 200,000 copies, which wasn't enough to be certified as anything. It's not gold, it's not platinum, it's not really anything. And to make matters worse, radio was scared to play Guns N' Roses, TV was afraid to play them. MTV wouldn't even show the video for Welcome to the Jungle because John Malone, who actually owns a lot of the cable households in America, which MTV is broadcast on, basically told MTV, if you play Guns N' Roses, I'm going to remove you from my cable services. So they weren't able to get any traction, and it wasn't until Tom Zutaut, who had actually discovered the band, went and personally spoke to David Geffen and told him, we need to play this video for Welcome to the Jungle. And finally MTV agreed to do it, but they would only play it once at like 4 a.m. in the morning, and that would be it. Thankfully, enough people were awake to actually see the video, and people loved the video and the song, and eventually MTV just added Welcome to the Jungle to their rotation, and then Guns N' Roses went to film a video right afterwards for Sweet Child of Mine. And then they kind of took off from there, so that basically does it for my true story episode of Appetite for Destruction, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I didn't want to spend too much time talking about all the accolades the album's got. It's been on numerous, best albums lists, and if you guys want to check that out, I've linked to the Wikipedia page down below. But I hope you guys enjoyed the 2 episodes I did. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know what your memories of Appetite for Destruction were if you were around during that time it came out. So comment down below and let me know. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the contents of this video, and be sure to subscribe if you love Guns N' Roses. And you guys can also donate to my Patreon page to support my channel and help me make more videos like this. So thanks for watching, guys, and have a good one.